Hey everyone, how's it going tonight? Welcome in. If you don't know me, I am Lauren Lefkowitz. I'm an executive coach and fractional HR professional, and every week I do a live show called The Forking Audacity. And I talk about the forking audacity of things that happen and how we can react and respond to those things and be like our absolute best freaking selves wherever we go and however we do things. And so right now I'm going live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can watch me live or you can watch me in the replay. If you are watching me in the replay, then you'll see in the replay notes that you can sign up to be notified of events as they're happening so that you'll know to come on in about 15 minutes before I go live. In the month of March, I will be going live every day. Don't worry, I won't be sending you an email every day to let you know that I'm going live. If you sign up for lives and events, I will send you a weekly email so you know when I'll be live. But I'm so excited to talk to you tonight. I'm going to talk to you today about fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And I'm going to explain why this relates to forking audacity. But before I explain the relationship, I want to just walk through fight, flight, freeze, or fawn with you and talk to you a little bit about those different responses, because I think a lot of us have heard of fight or flight, and we can almost immediately identify ourselves as someone who tries to escape the problem or somebody who tries to like jump in and put up your dukes and fight real hard to attack the problem or the emergency or the situation that stands in front of you. Freeze is common, right, as well. And I think most of us have heard of that, which is like that we just sort of stand in place in a potentially analysis paralysis or fear response where we don't know which way to go. And so we're kind of like the dog who's being called by two owners. And I'm going to tell you why I'm talking about dogs in a little while, because this is like dogs have, I mean, dogs are always amazing, but dogs have been a very fun subject for me in the last week. When we freeze, we are being called to have a different response, but we don't know which response to respond to. And so we stay in place. So it's like that angel devil on our shoulder. One side is saying, fight for this. You deserve better than this. The other side is saying, run away. And so you stand in between these two dog owners going, should I fight or should I flee or should I fight or should I'm just going to stay here. I can't make a decision. The one we don't talk about as much, which is why I'm talking about the forking audacity, is fawn. So fawn is a fourth response that we have that's an automatic response. The thing happens, we have an automatic reaction to it, and then we get to decide. And some of us don't decide beyond the more natural response. And there's a lot of practice that goes into that. But fawn is my people pleasers. Fawner over here. When there is a problem, when there is an emergency, when I am under attack, when my people are under attack, when I see an injustice or an unfairness going on, when there is an emergency at play, I am a fawner. And fawn is the people pleaser. Fawn is the people pleasing reaction that somebody comes to me and they are on the attack. I will probably not run away. I will probably not fight. I almost never freeze, although I do sometimes, but I almost never freeze. But will I spend a lot of time and energy making it better? Huh, heck yeah. How can I help? What can I do? Hand raising, I'll do it. Bring me in, count me in. I have a solution for that. I have some thoughts on that. Here are some ideas. How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? The audacity of the fawner is what I'm going to really focus on today. All of these responses have some level of audacity. And by the way, if you're joining the conversation, feel free to leave a comment, ask a question. If there's something that I don't address on this conversation tonight and you want me to address in a future live, feel free to send me a DM or again, comment on this post. I am going to be going live every day during the month of March. So I will have a lot of topics and I will have a lot of different things to talk about and a lot of questions to answer. So stay tuned for that. But back to this fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. There is some level of audacity in making a deliberate choice to be in one of these reactions, because we all have a natural way that we go. We all have a natural way of being that will be our go-to. And if you ask somebody which of these reactions is their natural, a people pleaser who doesn't know fawn might hem and haw over which one they are, because they might not be sure which one they are, and none of them really quite fit, and it depends on the situation. But when you bring fawning into the people pleaser, we all identify with it. Fellow people pleaser here. So when you're talking about audacity and these reactions, we typically are having one of these four reactions because somebody has had the audacity to come at us in the workplace. So that could be your boss with the, hey, do you have a minute? And if that boss is someone who says, hey, do you have a minute, and panic rises, then you are going to have a natural kickstart response. I don't have a minute right now. I'm right in the middle of X, Y, and Z. Can I come get you later? There's your flight. Fight. Every time you come to me and ask me if I have a minute, it's not for something good. Just tell me what it is so I can defend it and then move on. Freeze. Just the deer in headlights. Just the full-on fear, standing still response. Do I have a minute? I don't know if I have a minute. If I say I have a minute now and then my boss makes me cry, am I going to be sorry that I said I have a minute? If I say I don't have a minute, does it look like I'm trying to avoid a conversation that's about needing to have a minute to be disciplined for something? Right? So the swirling is your freeze response. The fawn response is, absolutely, I have a minute. Let me drop everything. I'll come to your office. What do I need to bring? Do I bring a pen and paper? How do I fix it? Or the fawner is also the person who says, I know what the problem is, and answers the questions before they're even asked. Very often they don't actually know what the problem is. But we fawners, we try to be on the side of fixing it before so much damage is done that we can't even live with it. When somebody comes to us and puts us in a position where we have to respond, and we have to decide whether it's a conscious decision or whether it's a reactive decision, we have to decide, or we get to decide, do I want to go with my gut reaction here? Do I want to go with my my trauma response of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, or do I want to make a conscious decision about how I want to respond? Is it any of these? Because in the non-trauma response, in the non-panic response, we're more thoughtful. We may be more playful. There are options to responding to something that can be frightening or off-putting or unsettling, or can make us angry or sad or upset. There are different responses than fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. There aren't different gut responses, right? So our gut response that's always going to come first if we are worried or if we are scared, is going to be this fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But doesn't have to be. So, do you have a minute? Which is the battle cry for any manager who's coming into the room who has some bad news or something to share with you or something they're concerned about. It is a horrible way, first of all, to kick off a conversation. So don't do that. Don't start with, do you have a minute? I actually, if you don't know, I have a podcast with a partner, John Spears, who's also an executive coach and former executive in corporate. We just are in the process of editing an episode about receiving feedback. And in that episode, the first question that I ask John is, what's your reaction when somebody says, got a minute? And we have this like full body, what did I do? What went wrong? What do I need to fix? What am I in trouble for? Reaction. And you feel it in your chest. You feel it in your throat. Your temples may start to pulse. Your hands may start to shake. Your stomach may start to hurt, or you may get butterflies. And so managers, leaders, CEOs, stop it with the audacity of coming in with, do you have a minute? And also those responding to, do you have a minute? Which, by the way, does not only come from the higher ups, right? When I worked in HR, I had a 20-year career in HR. Anytime an employee came into my office and said, do you have a minute? My thought was, are you quitting? Are you in trouble? Are you sick? Did somebody harass you? Did somebody discriminate against you? Like even my panic reaction, which, my response was always to Fawn, how can I help? What can I do? When I was in a fear or panic response mode, when I could be more thoughtful, I could ask the questions back in different ways. And that's what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about now. So the first thing, when somebody comes to you and catches you off guard, and it could be, do you have a minute? That's the example I'm using tonight. But it could also be, what is this? Right? Holding up a piece of paper. What is this? You don't know. You don't even know what they're talking about. So you have to get more information. There has to be more information gathering before you answer to what is this, or what went wrong, or do you want to tell me about what happened with Joe today? I don't even know what happened with Joe. What am I defending myself against? When was the last time I even talked to Joe? Right? So you're having all of these fear responses in your head. Your number one thing that you get to do is pause. You get to hear the question, hear the accusation, hear the audacity of, you'll handle that, won't you, Lauren? When you absolutely cannot handle it. So your first step is the pause. Do not respond. And I'm not saying just stare and don't respond, because that's the freeze response. I'm saying do not allow your automatic response to come out of your mouth. Do you have a minute? Sure. Do you have a minute? Oh, I'm so stressed out right now. Do we have to do it right now? Do you have a minute? Let me see what's going on now. Do you have a minute? Absolutely. Let me in. How can I help? What can I do? Right? Those are your automatic responses. The pause gives you an opportunity to ask yourself, is my automatic response my actual response? Because our automatic responses are not intuition. They are learned automatic responses, right? And some of it is reflexive, right? We live in a world where somebody sneezes and somebody else says, God bless you. And nobody really knows why. I mean, we know there was, a history of thought process that demons were invading your body if you sneezed. And so you needed to be blessed. I don't think we're all walking around thinking that any sneezer has a demon inside of them. Some might, but I don't think a sneeze is the sign of a demon. And so bless you is just like a learned automatic response. It's a learned behavior. Am I advising you to stop saying bless you? No, I think it's like a lovely thing to say and to acknowledge when people have had a sneeze, they're going to be okay. But When you are learning these behaviors over the course of your life, when you have learned, you're midway into your career and you have learned that these behaviors are the way. These are the behaviors. This is how I work. Somebody says this, I do this. Somebody asks this, I respond this way. When you learn that over and over and over on so much repetition, it is hard to not have that automatic response. So the first thing is to notice when it's happening and pause. Hey, do you have a minute? I'm not sure. Let me check my calendar. I don't actually have a minute right now, but I can probably come to your office in 20 minutes. I don't have a minute right now. My day is packed. Is this urgent? I do have a minute right now, but if it can wait, it would be great if it could wait. I always have time for you, right? If it's your favorite person and they walk in and they say, do you have a minute? And your heart doesn't start pounding and your stomach doesn't start hurting, you're allowed to make time for them, but not in an automatic, oh, I'm supposed to make time because somebody has asked me for my time kind of way. At your level in your career, you get to be discerning about when you have time and when you don't have time. You get to be discerning about participating in this project or not participating in this project. You get to be discerning about hiding away because somebody said something super offensive to you and then deciding, well, I hid, I fled. Whew, brain. I fled. So I'm not gonna handle this now. I can't change my mind. So that's the second thing. You always have the right to change your mind. So 1 is take the pause. 2 is change your mind. So if we're going with the you got a minute? Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I actually don't. I'm right in the middle of something and I'm going to lose my train of thought. So can I come to you in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever it is? Or the person sits down and a minute is really 45 minutes. You get to say, you know what? I did have a minute, but I actually only have a minute. And it seems like this is a bigger conversation or a bigger situation. So can we schedule some additional time later? I want to give you my full attention. I don't have the capacity for this right now. All kinds of different ways to reply to that. We think because we are high achievers, we are people pleasers, we are concerned for our fellow human, we think that the audacity lies with us when we say no or later or let me think about this or let me get back to you. But the audacity actually lies with the people who make the assumption that you are there strictly to serve them. So you're going to want to be thinking about, how can I be more audacious? Audacity is not always a bad thing. Audacity is a bad thing when it's forking audacity, but audacity is not always a bad thing. So when you have the opportunity to choose the right level of audacity for you and for the situation, do it. So think about, how do you react? And do you have a minute is such a great example, because I've never met a single person who can't think of a time when somebody has said to them, do you have a minute? And it didn't instill panic. So I just said that with a whole bunch of negatives after negatives, but every time I've asked somebody, is my point, every time I've asked somebody what it feels like when somebody says, do you have a minute? Nobody ever says like, oh, well, if somebody says, do I have a minute? It's usually a friend and it's usually great news. And I always have a minute for that friend who's bringing me good news. No, people think of bosses. They think of people in their family that they're afraid of. They think of people in their lives that they're afraid of. They think of being in trouble. They think of having gotten caught for something. They think of getting bad news, and they think of being told no, or you're doing it wrong. So do you have a minute feels pretty universally applicable to instill fear. So as you think about what that feeling is for you when you're asked, do you have a minute? Think about what your natural reaction is. Is your natural reaction to fold your arms and say, yeah, what do you need? I got a minute, but what do you need? Because that's fight. Is your reaction to say, I don't have time now. Can I call you later? I actually have to run right now. I have to run. Leaving the picture. That's flight. Freezing is just that stare. It's just, do I have a minute? And then maybe dancing around the, do I have a minute? Let me look. Let me see. What do I have going on? While trying to figure out what to do and how to make a decision about that. And then Fawn, of course I have a minute. I always have a minute for you. Do you need more than a minute? I have more than a minute. I'll clear my schedule. I'm on it. I'll help. Let me in. Make me, put me in charge. Make me your point person. Your natural reactions don't have to be your actual responses. And you get to self-correct. You get to course correct. You get to say, actually, I know I said I had time for this, but I don't have time for it right now. Actually, now's not a great time for a minute. Before I give you an answer, is it really a minute or is it 5 minutes or is it a half hour? Before I give you an answer, is it urgent? Like exploring for more information. Really valid, really important. So if you're watching this in the replay, let me know, what's your natural response? Are you a fighter, a fleer, a freezer, or a fawner? What is your natural way of being? And what would you like to shift to? Thanks so much for being here tonight. I will be back not only next Tuesday night, but starting March 1st, I'm going to go live every single day in March at all different times of the day with all different topics. And if you want to make sure to stay up on what I'm going live for and when, make sure to click on the link in the description of tonight's live so that you can sign up for updates on lives and events and so that you won't miss anything in the month of March. I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week and through all of March. Have a great night.